Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first official episode of Backlog Brain Rot. Today, we're going to be discussing our top 10 games that we played in the year 2022. With me here is Connor.
Hey.
And, of course, Straw Hat, the Weeb King.
Konnichiwa, Minasan.
The criteria we were looking at for this list was we were trying to pick games that we had played for the very first time in the year 2022. They didn't have to be new releases, but we wanted to have them be games that were totally unique to us before we started them.
And it's a good thing we didn't just do new releases because I did not play that many new releases this year, honestly.
I don't think I even played 10 new releases.
I definitely didn't.
I did play 10, but I wouldn't say that I played like a lot of games that would be on the top 10. It was kind of a year of a lot of games I thought were okay, but nothing too amazing.
I think 4 of the games on my list I played for the first time, or came out this year, I should say.
I think it's only like 4 for me as well. Wow. Look at us so up to date with things.
I know. Well, I can already tell you 2023 is going to be different because we are recording this before Fire Emblem Engage launches, but it's almost a week away for us, so very excited for that.
Yeah, me too. My list also only had 3 or 4, so it was definitely a big year for the backlog.
I still feel like I barely touched it.
Yeah, it just never seems to shrink, does it? Sometimes I pretend like it shrinks, and then I just end up adding right back to it after I delete things from it.
See, my problem is I love to replay games too, so that makes it even harder because I'm just like, yeah, let me replay Banjo-Kazooie for the 10th time.
It just replayed Knights of the Republic 2 for the 15th time.
And then I don't really replay games, but I do spend a lot of time brain rotting, so that's where the rest of my time goes.
Let's play games.
So this time we're going to each have our own individual top 10 lists. So we're going to have 30 games listed with some honorable mentions, of course. But in the future, we're going to try to do top 10s where our answers are averaged together. So it makes one more specific top 10 list. But just this time, it didn't really make any sense.
Them all.
Yes, it'll be a definitive list, so we can't have arguments about, well, actually it's this. It's like, no, this is the correct one because we 3 agreed on it. And maybe we could have the community help us too, and they'll have somewhat of the vote, but not as much power as us, of course.
And as we all know, the POTUS has given us absolute authority on this matter.
Of course.
Indeed.
And voting never goes wrong, right, Straw Hat? Hifumi really is a top character.
Well, I don't know about that, but he's a top 10 worst character in Danganronpa. But
okay, let's cut him off here. So let's get started. We're gonna go Straw Hat, Parrot, Connor, and we'll start at number 10 and go work our way to number 1. So Straw Hat, take it away with your number 10.
All right, so as I mentioned in our intro episode, last year we did we did a visual novel a month, and Parrot and I actually started out doing even more. I think Connor did too, but because we had a couple options each month. So a lot of my list is full of visual novels. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So half the list is visual novels. My number 10, and I know Connor has played this, Parrot, I don't think you have. It is Apollo Justice Ace Attorney.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, I'm trying to play through all of them. I still only have 5 and 6 left. I did play Great Ace Attorney, which is the ones that just came out in the year before, 2021, I believe. And while I don't think it's quite up to that tier or as good as the third Phoenix Wright, I think it's better than the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So far, but it is a very good game, and it's actually it's the first one I think that came to DS originally, which I actually, sorry Addy in advance, I know you're going to hate this, but I played this on my iPhone because there's really no way to play it other than my DS or 3DS, I guess. But
yeah, because I think it was original the actual DS, so it's not on the 3DS store. So that was the same way I had to play it.
Right, and because the original Phoenix Wright trilogy is on everything pretty much now, but I really want them to release the new Phoenix Wright games on more things, like current gen stuff, but Capcom is kind of weird with Phoenix Wright, but I hope they keep making more. But
Same.
yes, definitely enjoyed Apollo Justice. It had all different characters. Well, he was, I don't want to spoil it, but Phoenix is in the game, but he's just not the main lawyer this time. But yeah, it's a really good game and I definitely recommend it. So that is my number 10.
All right. So my number 10 is a game that you two definitely know better than I do. I struggled a lot with what to pick for my number 10. I had like 5 different choices, but I ended up going with Trails in the Sky, the third.
Ooh.
Nice.
Going into the game, I didn't really know what to expect because I'd seen such like divisive statements about the game. Some people love it, some people hate it. So I didn't really know where I would fall. And I
I'm
guess
saying a million things about doors.
yep, but I didn't really know where I would fall on it, but I definitely came out really enjoying it more than I expected. I played it about exactly a year since I had played Sky 2, so it felt like a nice return to all the characters I hadn't seen in a long time. I think that was a large amount of the appeal. And I know the gameplay was pretty divisive, but I didn't ever really get sick of just the one dungeon thing.
That's something I know that a lot of people can be hit or miss with, but I really like that more focused structure.
And also Kevin was a great protagonist.
Fantastic
Kevin is
protagonist.
great. Yeah, that one's weird. It's up there with Cold Steel 4 for sure, and how like people are just like, oh, they don't really like it or they love it, because a lot of people would say before that you don't need to play this game. Like you could skip right to 0 or Cold Steel
That'd be
1.
such
But
a shame.
I know I completely disagree because there's so many character moments you'd miss, like with Ren and just even with Kevin and all the different characters. But definitely a great one.
I would say third made me care about the cast more than the first two.
Yeah, because that's pretty much what it focuses on, because you're not worried about traveling around the continent this time.
That was a lot of the appeal for me. I just liked seeing all the characters again and getting to know even more about them, and it definitely felt like a nice epilogue. I didn't necessarily care like as much about the overarching story of it, but the character stuff was the draw.
I'm sure we will talk more about Sky Third in the future.
Of course.
Probably.
All right, Connor's up.
All right. So my number 10, and it's a shame it's this low, but that's just a statement for how many great games I played this year. My number 10 is Stray, the Orange Kitty game.
Ooh.
Yep.
See, I didn't get to play that this year, but I am interested.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people talk about how, oh, it's missing this or, oh, they didn't do that. But honestly, I was sold on the base premise. It didn't matter how simple it was going to be. I knew from day one I was going to love it. You're a cute orange kitty. You're in a cool sci-fi retro-y environment. You have a chill little adventure. It is not a complicated game. It is not a deep game. You are a cute cat. You can meow at things. You scratch furniture. You jump around. I love it.
I also really loved it. It would have been in my honorable mentions, but now that you've said it, I'll save it. It really surprised me. I didn't expect to have like such an interesting world around it. I guess I went in with no expectations, and I just expected you to run around as a cat for a few hours, and that was about it. But I did end up caring about the light story and just the world around what was going on.
Yeah, it just had fantastic visual design. Just brilliant in that terms. And yeah, you didn't interact with it as much as I'm sure a lot of people probably were hoping for, but I don't know. I think that just made it easier to chill out with.
Yeah, I definitely went in expecting it to be a little more interactive, but it didn't really take away from it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that's my number 10.
All right, Straw Hats, number 9.
All right, so my number 9 is actually a game that came out this year, and it's funny because we just talked about Fire Emblem, and it's Fire Emblem adjacent because it's Triangle Strategy. Did any of you guys play this game or no?
I haven't been able to get to it yet.
I did not.
It's a little different than Fire Emblem because obviously there's not as much focus on the character building. And it's funny because it's probably most related to Tactics Ogre, which also came out this year. I didn't enjoy Tactics Ogre as much as Triangle Strategy, maybe because I really wasn't in the mood to play it when I started, and it's really hard. So it's like very challenging. But The
Yeah,
big
I'm
focus,
interested to try that one out.
yeah, you would probably like it. The big thing with Triangle Strategy that makes it very unique is you basically have 3 different paths you can take during the chapters, and you can pretty much talk to all the characters and be like, hey, do you want to, which decision you want to make? Because there's basically 3 different factions at work trying to lead you down the path, and depending what you choose, your missions are going to be different. Characters might die or they'll choose a different path. So, and the combat is very Final Fantasy Tactics. So, and of course the graphics are amazing.
It does look really beautiful. I'm just a little worried I would be too bad at it.
Did the original Final Fantasy Tactics game have a similar kind of progression structure then, or was that kind of unique?
I can't remember. I only played a little bit of War of the Line. I need to play it again. I really want to play it again, but there's like that rumors of the remake coming, so I'm scared to play it again because if they bring it out again, I'll just be like, because I do have it on Vita, but yeah, I have heard similar things to it. I'm sure other people might know, but the
I'm
combat
sure
isn't
RCT
as,
would know.
yeah, RCT would definitely know. The combat isn't quite as unforgiving as Fire Emblem Parrot because when you die, you don't, like, your characters aren't dead. They just don't get any more experience.
Gotcha. Okay. That's how I need to play on baby mode.
Yeah, so they don't kill your characters off, but yeah,
You
it's
mean
really
you don't
fun.
enjoy restarting every single time someone takes slightly more damage than you expect?
No.
The true experience. But yeah, that is my number 9.
All right. My number 9 is also a game that came out this year, and that is TMNT Shredder's Revenge. It's only about a 2-3 hour game, but it's just so fun to play in co-op. It's just a classic beat 'em up style game, which I just feel, well, they actually are starting to make a bit of a resurgence lately. But I haven't played one in a while, and I shout out to Alexis, Radic, Poot, Rainick, because we all bought it at launch, and we just picked a night on that weekend, and we just all logged in together and just played the whole thing in one sitting. And that also really helped to the experience, I feel like, playing with everybody.
That's a very classic experience. Not a lot of games you can grind out in one session like that now.
Never got old either. It was just long enough where by the end you're like, okay, that was like the perfect length, and it was a good time to stop.
Yeah, that's the good thing about beat 'em ups. You don't want them too long, but the added experience with friends definitely does make it even more fun.
Yeah, probably the resurgence of fighting games is kind of reviving that genre as well.
Yeah, there have been some good ones lately. Streets of Rage 4 was fun, and then River City Girls was really good. But those are some of the only ones I've played, so I'm looking forward to trying some more. So, Connor, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is the next Falcom game that we're going to mention today, Ys Origin.
Ooh.
Yeah, this one, and compared to my usual taste for Falcom games, wasn't so heavy on the story for me. It was just one of the most fun of the action games that they've made, in my opinion.
The gameplay is really addicting because I'm actually playing it right now again. Like, I finished the first character and I'm playing the second one now, and the gameplay is just really fun.
Yeah, they got a really solid loop, and I think this was the last one of that era of Ys games. So they had it down, like they had their formula refined by that point, right before they reset it with the, I think, 7. It's either 7 or Memories of Celceta was like the next one after that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they like the real standout for me were like the boss designs, where each boss was like a little mini puzzle, but they weren't the kind of locked set patterns that you'd have to do in like a Mario boss fight, where it's like, oh, you jump here, you jump there, you hit the thing 3 times. There was a nice push and pull between being good at the action system and maximizing your damage output like an action RPG should, and there were patterns and to the fight. So even if you were, say, under leveled when you went in, if you figure out the trick, you can deal more damage than and survive things better than your level should. So punch above your weight, and everything flowed so quickly too. So it was just a joy to go through.
It's funny too because one of the characters named Hugo, it almost feels like a shoot 'em up, like when you play as him, which is
Yeah,
completely
it
different
is.
gameplay than is it Unique? I can't remember what her
I
name,
think
the
it's
first Unica or something.
Unica or something.
Yeah, Unica. Yeah, the Hugo character, he pretty much is just like because you're like shooting these little bullets when you fight with him, which is completely different.
Yeah,
But
so even though it's the same bosses, you end up having to pick up new strategies to fight them. I think my
yes,
third character ended up being my favorite, so you'll see when you get to that.
yeah, from what I heard, he is the best. So we'll see when I get there.
Yeah, that was my number 9.
All right, Straw Hat, you're number 8.
All right, I think we can all talk about this game because we all played it. I'm pretty sure it is Valhalla.
Oh, I love
It-
that game.
It's very good.
Are you talking about the survival game?
Or no, the bartending
Oh, right.
simulator.
I'm thinking Valheim. Yeah. Valhalla, the bartending game. Definitely know that one.
Yes, that was the first game we actually played on the Visual Novel Club last year, and it is just so addicting to mix the drinks and like talk with people. And it's I think I can't remember if I beat it in like 2 or 3 days, but I just could not stop. I think no, you know what? I think I made myself play it slow. Only did like a few days at a time because otherwise I would have just blew through it because it was so good. The dialogue's fun, the characters are great. It's just a great visual novel.
Yeah, it's
That
fantastic.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I did blow through it in 3 days,
I remember that.
and that's why it's not on my list because I started it early and I technically finished it in 2021 because I just couldn't stop playing it. And I would play I was like, oh, I'll just play a few of the in-game days a day. And I would play like 2 or 3 and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to be done. And then like an hour later I'd be like, okay, well, I got to play a little more. And then I would just keep playing it and then I was done in like 2 or 3 days.
Meanwhile, it was actually a replay when I played it this year since I'd already beaten it back in like 2018. And that was like a 2-day blow through for me as well. But unlike your regular kind of marathon gaming, it was you felt chill when you were done
Mhm.
marathoning that game.
Yeah, it had a really relaxing vibe, and like Straw Hat said, it had a lot of really, really fun characters. I liked seeing them over the course of I like seeing them over the course of the week or 2 weeks or whatever the game takes place.
Shout out to Dorothy.
Best
Yeah,
character.
our greatest cry emote.
All right, so my number 8 is one of my first of a few Nintendo games. Uh, Kirby Forgotten Land, which came out this year also. I don't know if either of you played this, but it's a very chill 3D platformer, which is interesting because Kirby is, almost always 2D. Might always be 2D until this one, but so it has nice short but somewhat open levels that have some secrets to find, and you have a lot of fun transformations that you can make in the new weirdly named mouthful mode. But yeah, this was just a nice, like, chill, slightly addicting game where I was really actually trying to find all the secrets. In games like that, a lot of times I go for them, and if I don't find them, then it's whatever. But this one, I actually was going back and replaying the levels to try to get everything.
That's pretty good compliment for a game like that.
I did not play this game, but I watched Kyle Bossman play this game, and it does look really fun. Like it looks better than most of the other Kirby games. Like my brother was a big Kirby fan, so I've got a lot of Kirby games, like especially the GBA ones, the SNES ones, even the GameCube. Or actually, I don't know if GameCube had any, but this one definitely looks more akin to like a Mario 3D platformer than usually they are.
Yeah, it's a little more. It's almost like a combination of that and a normal Kirby game.
And for
And
some
also,
reason, it's also post-apocalyptic.
I was about to say the same thing. It's also very odd that it's just in a post-apocalyptic Earth.
It's a combination we didn't know we needed, but now that it exists, it's fantastic.
Yep, The Last of Us Kirby.
All right. So my number 8 is Dead Cells. And this was a late pick for me in the year. And just kind of a spur of the moment. I didn't really have anyone suggest it to me. It was just on Game Pass, and I was like, I see this all the time. I might as well try it out. And then like 15 hours later, I was like, wow, I think I might be addicted to this game. It's got a really solid action gameplay loop and a nice drip feed of unlocks for a roguelike, which is always kind of like the live or die point for one. Is the core gameplay loop fun with or without unlocking any things? And then will I actually get stuff for time invested? And it hit the perfect balance of me where I say it's even probably one of the top 5 roguelikes I've played.
That's definitely a game that I would love to try sometime, because roguelikes are a genre that I sometimes love, which you'll actually see one on my list later. But then also, just as often, I end up not liking them, because if I don't, like you said, if the loop is fun, but if I don't feel like dying is a good part of the loop where I'm going to get better later, then I tend to get frustrated by it.
Yeah. Picking your roguelike of choice is like picking your favorite arcade cabinet. They all basically are the same, like punishing loop of, all right, you put a quarter in, you do the thing, and then it's over when you lose. But some people jive with different cabinets than others.
I have also not played this, but I have seen it. I was interested, but I usually tend to not like roguelikes too much either, but I would definitely give it a shot at some point, maybe during the next Steam sale. I'll have to see.
Yeah, it gets pretty cheap now. And the base game is plenty fun, so you don't really need to worry about grabbing all the DLC until you're already addicted. Well, that's my number 8.
All right, now we're on to our number 7s.
My number 7, I know Parrot, you have played this, but Connor, I don't think you have. It is Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
Yep,
Yeah.
I just finished it last week.
So I love XCOM. XCOM, the series, is one of my favorite. Like, I just love the combat. I love the mod support, which is funny because you can get so many great mods for them. But I just love the grid style combat. And the first Mario Rabbids I really liked because it pretty much was a copy of XCOM. Now, this one they changed it up a little bit, which I was a little nervous about, but I think it made it better. Like, I enjoyed it more. They made the characters like they didn't make them all the same, which is good. And I think they added more of like an open world where the other one was more on rails. But the challenges and the story I thought was better too, and the challenges were just better. And yeah, I thought it was a big improvement. I pretty much did everything except I think in the last world, but I put like over 30 hours into the game. It was really good.
Yeah, I really liked the combat changes, like the way that you still are, you're still basically moving on the grid, but you're
Right.
not on a grid. It took
That's
me
a
a
little
little
more
bit to get
freeform
used to.
then.
Yeah, it just like opens up a big cone and then that's where you're allowed to move. But what's
Interesting.
interesting is you can move forward and then have your other person move forward also and jump off your head, which is like
Yep.
how you can go further. But then the person whose head was jumped on could then move back without any penalty. Like
Ooh.
you don't actually commit your spot on the map until you shoot the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
it,
Yeah,
something that Kuro no Kiseki started adding to the combat to a lesser degree.
yeah, it's
And
pretty much
I just love
exactly
that.
like that. Yeah, because I played Kuro as well, and yeah, you pretty much you can move like in a area of
Yeah.
movement rather than a grid. So, but yeah, like Parrot said, you can move a character then let them jump. But the movement options are so good in this game; it just makes the combat get so crazy. You can do it feels like you can do so much in one turn.
Yeah. I think movement is one of the biggest things a lot of tactical games have unfairly like forgotten for a long time, but it seems like finally we're getting some more interesting innovation in that area again.
Right.
the only thing I agree that it was interesting that all the characters played a little different, but that for me made it so I just ended up playing the same 3. Like other than when I was forced to use someone else, I always just used the same trio.
Who was your 3?
I always used Mario because I liked his dual gun where you
Mm-hmm.
could shoot twice. Then I always used Luigi because he seemed really overpowered.
He is very overpowered. Sniper.
And then I always just used Rabid Peach because she was like some sort of like healer / damage dealer.
Yep.
So I
See,
never felt like it made me change off those 3.
that's funny because Rabid Mario might be the most OP character because he just like his attack does area range or just does like the whole area damage plus his movement. He's so strong. So yeah, I used him a lot, and also just Princess Peach herself was pretty good too. But yeah, I see what you mean. I think really the only character that was bad was Rabbit Luigi.
Yeah.
He was kind of bad, but the
He-
rest of them were fine.
yeah, he was really bad whenever it made me actually use him.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it when they announced the first game in that series, and now that there's a sequel, I'm pretty sure we're in a simulation.
Pretty much. But the bad news is I heard that it underperformed. A bunch
Oh,
of
that
their
sucks.
games did, though, so I don't know what that means for the future, but I'm glad we at least got 2 of them.
Could be like the Square Enix saying Tomb Raider reboot underperformed as it sold 2 million copies.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, my number 7 is a game that I know that Straw Hat would really like, and it's called Tinykin. It is basically just a collectathon platform / puzzle game that definitely takes inspiration from Pikmin, because you're pretty much of the same story as Pikmin. You're an alien guy, and you come into this. In this case, it's a house instead of a planet, and then there's a bunch of creatures on the ground that follow you around and help you out. But where it's different than Pikmin is that Pikmin's more of what, like an RTS sort of game.
Yep.
But this is really just purely a platformer and puzzle game. So each of the Tinykin have, they're a different color, just like Pikmin, but each one of them has a different ability. So one of them does electricity, one of them explodes. Some of them let you stand on their heads so you can go taller. So then you have to use each of their individual powers to explore the map, and there's always one objective and some bonus objectives, but essentially you're pretty much have to explore the map and find a large amount of the Tinykin to be able to progress through the end of the level. Because at the beginning of each level, you start with 0, and then you find them all on the map until you are able to finish it.
Because one of my friends did recommend this highly to me as well because he knows how much I love 3D platformers. So now that you're recommending it, I'm adding it to my wish list as we speak.
It's definitely worth it. The Pikmin comparison is definitely somewhat true, but it doesn't play anything like Pikmin. It's really just more how it looks.
That was
Yeah,
the only
just-
part that scared me, was that before.
Yeah, Pikmin. I love Pikmin, but I know some people don't like it because it's also a very stressful game. And it's also always so sad seeing all your little Pikmin die.
That's a game I need to try at some point, Pikmin. I just need to know how that game actually plays.
Well, Pikmin 4 is coming out this year, so
Yeah, supposedly.
Ready. So my number 7 is probably one of the most curveball picks of the day. It's a visual novel called World End Syndrome.
yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah. It was I don't remember the main company that developed it, but it's like Playbox or something. And then it was done in collaboration with Arc System Works, which was kind of
Ooh.
weird to see at first. But then when I realized that half of Arc System Works games are fighting games / visual novels, and as I learned more, I realized that a lot of Japanese games are like mixed visual novels and fighting games. I was like, okay, maybe this makes a little more sense than I was giving it credit for. This was just something I saw on the Nintendo eShop and went, I like the art style. Let's check it out. And that's how a lot of my picks are made, to be honest. And it's essentially, it feels like a Tom Selleck, like a late career Tom Selleck movie, animeified and turned into a visual novel. It's this coastal town mystery where there's a lot of, it's very quiet. Like there isn't even music playing for a good portion, like 60, 70% of the time, just the ambience of the town. And for the most part, you're just kind of doing slice of life for 80% of the game, going around getting to know the characters, unlocking the steps you need for the different character routes. And then by the end of it, you do the typical true route and figure out, resolve the rest of the mysteries. And it's not the most like exciting or creative mystery. This one's just carried entirely by atmosphere for me.
Have you played this, Parrot? I know Justin played it, I think, because he really liked it too.
No, I've never. The only thing I've ever heard about this game is what Connor said about it.
I think Niels is the only other person in the Discord who's played
He
it.
might have. Isn't there like a Daru like character in that visual novel?
What's a Daru?
Like Steins Gate.
Yeah, from
Oh,
Steins Gate. Isn't there like a Daru? Is he or Hifumi even like? Is there a
no,
character like that? Okay, maybe I'm thinking
no.
of a different visual
I don't.
novel then.
Now I don't want to play it.
No, it's mostly just the like 5 girls and the main character and there's a few other side characters that are
Classic,
actually pretty interesting.
classic
It's
Japanese setup.
Yeah, I wouldn't really recommend it to most people unless you just happen to really like some low stakes mystery like ocean town mystery novels. If you're the type of person who's watched episode like actually sat down to watch an episode of Murder She Wrote, this might be interesting to you.
It's not on the visual. Well, I guess you just played it because I was gonna say it's
I
not
just
on the
played
list
it.
this month, so or
It was
this
like
year.
February. I needed something else to play after finishing the one for that month.
Gotcha. All right, I think I'm up again, right? My number 6.
Yep, time for the number
Yeah.
6s.
All right, so I got another visual novel here, and it's the one I finished just recently in December. It is Raging Loop, which Connor also played this.
Oh,
Parrot, you
yeah.
started it, I know, but
Yep, I started it, but I did not get very far yet.
so I was very surprised by this game, and I know Gremlin loves this visual novel because he talks about it a lot. It's actually my profile pic right now in the Discord as one of the characters from the game, which I don't remember his name, but it's the reporter, and he's the best character, or the cameraman. He's by far the best character. He's great. This
He would be
visual
a
novel,
Hifumi fan approved, and Straw Hat
ooh,
still likes him, so that
I
should tell
know.
you something.
Yeah, there you go, Parrot. That's a high recommendation. But
Anything like Kafumi is good, you know.
But yeah, this visual novel really surprised me because I really didn't have high expectations going in. It reminds me a lot of Higurashi combined with the game Mafia. Is basically how it works because there's
Pretty much spot on.
this random guy just like ends up in this village, of course, and he meets these characters and they have to go through these rituals like where basically two or three or even one are chosen to be a wolf, which basically wants to kill all the people in the village while the mist has arrived. And depending what perspective you are as the character, you have to figure out what's going on. And it's pretty linear. Like there's some choices, but a lot of the choices you make can't be made. You can't really make a choice until you see a certain ending or something else happens so you can get a key to make a different choice. But it's pretty long was the one thing that surprised me. I think it's 20 to 30 hours. It pretty much kept me hooked the whole time. And also after every ending you get to watch a recap of with a sheep, which is pretty funny each time. So
Yeah. There's one that probably would have scored higher with me, and it's probably just like I wasn't too hot on the ending. It wasn't a bad ending by any means. It kind of lost me a little bit just from a personal standpoint.
yeah, that's
But
a
it
common
was
complaint with it. But yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, other than that, the first like 80% of it, I was having a great time.
All right. My number 6 is an older game that I had finally played after it being on my backlog for many years, and that was Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. I remember I actually bought it on my Vita when Shovel Knight first came out, and I played maybe, an hour of it, and then for whatever reason, I didn't keep playing. And then now, years later, I finally dusted off the Vita and played it, and I was super hooked on it. It was I thought that it would be a bit dull playing the same levels or similar levels as just 4 different characters between the 4 different campaigns, but they really do feel so much different than each other. So it made it feel fresh every time. And I would say that I liked all 4 of them. The King one was probably my least favorite. I ended up having to skip all the card sections, but other than that, I really loved it.
A little bit of a Ys Origin effect.
Yeah, I have not played Shovel Knight even. I should play it because I would like it, but I don't know why I just never have.
That one's on my radar again now. It's kind of intentionally skipped it all these years, but I've since been reawakened to side scrollers.
I love platformers. I played a lot of them in the year 2022, and that was definitely one of the best ones.
Year of our Lord 2022. All right, and my number 6 is the game which reawakened me to side-scrolling platformers, Metroid Dread.
Ooh.
Yeah, I almost dropped this one, but Moki urged me to keep going with it because there's like a Mr. X kind of element with the Emmys going on there. And when I first encountered one, I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this again. But it turns out it's more puzzly than the Mr. X is. Like, so once I stuck it out like an hour with the game, then everything clicked together in terms of how the shooting works, how the platforming works, how the puzzle elements work, how the map progression works, how the Emmys work, how the boss fights work. And once I got the whole picture of it, I was like, oh no, this is fantastic. It's a great game loop. And the choreography on the cutscenes was just way better than it had any right to be.
Mm-hmm. I love Metroid Dread. It was my second favorite game last year. It was almost my game of the year because I'm not usually that big into Metroidvanias, but I think Dread might even be. I need to go back and play Super Metroid again. I think other than Hollow Knight, I think Dread might be my second favorite one.
Yeah,
it was really tight.
I'm very similar to you, Straw Hat. Similar to the roguelikes, I sometimes love Metroidvania type games, but most of the time I don't really like them. And Dread was one of the ones I got really obsessed with. What I also really liked about it is that it had a lot of exploration, of course, but I never got actually totally lost like can happen in those sorts of games.
Yeah, it didn't force you to backtrack into like old areas egregiously. Like, it had a natural sense of backtracking while still having secrets off the sides. The only other Metroidvania I'd completed before this one was Shadow Complex on the 360 way back in the day.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Then I tried Symphony of the Night and got a good way through, then got tilted by the Medusa heads, and then the series, like the genre, never clicked with me again until last year. Went on a spree and beat like 5 more in a month.
Have you played Hollow Knight?
That was one of the next ones I played after that.
Ooh.
That was great.
Yeah, I love Hollow Knight. Silk Song, please come out before I die.
50-50.
Good luck.
I know.
Probably got another few decades before it comes out. So
I picked it in fantasy 2 years in a row and it never came out.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my number 6.
All right. On to round 5.
All right. Top 5. All right. Parrot, you're going to have to control yourself here because I know you're going to want to talk about this game more, but we'll probably have its own topic at some point because I know how much you love it. But my number 5 is Steins Gate.
Great choice. Great choice.
Definitely going to get its own episode eventually because I like talking about it too.
Now, I'm not new to the Steins Gate franchise, but because I love the anime. That was my first experience with it. I've watched all the anime, I've seen it, but I had never played the visual novel before. And I always wanted to because the art style of the original especially just looks so good. And so I got to play it this year with our visual novel of the month club, and it was excellent because the anime is one of my favorites. So of course I already knew the visual novel was going to be one of my favorites too, and it easily is up there. So, but like I said, I don't want to talk too much because I know Parrot adores the franchise, and we will have topics about it. But I just had to get my toot-a-roo in there.
I'm really glad that a lot of you played it for the first time because the anime is really good. That is where I first originally saw it, which you know me, I tend to drop shows within like 2 episodes, even if I like them. So the fact that I actually watched it all, I remember watching it in like 2 days, really just shows how into it I was in the game. Then I also went and played the game later on, a couple of years later. And it is, the same as the show, but it's just more in depth. And I feel like you get to know all the side characters so much more than in the show.
So hot.
The art is really, really nice.
Yeah. I picked up the anime back in 2018, finished it, and I went, I'm sad now. I want this again. I'll go play the visual novel now.
And it is very worth it. And also, you get all those different endings.
Yeah. Which I still haven't done.
You
Ooh,
got it.
I did everything.
That
All right,
gives me a reason to replay again.
Yeah, I'm hoping to replay it this year. I think I'm going to try to do the whole series before Anonymous Code comes out, which is supposedly in August, but who knows?
And I'll have all the other science adventure games to play through for first time.
We can play them together.
Yeah, I need to play them as well. I need to play because I've had Chaos Child for so long in my Steam library, but now that they released, was it Noah? I didn't get to play that, so I need to play those first.
Yeah, I need to play. I played Chaos Head. I played a fan patch of it in 2020. I think I played it. So now I'm going to play Noah this year. Okay, so my number 5 is a game I know Straw Hat really loves, and that's Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Ooh, baby.
Nice.
You like this one too, don't you, Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually bought this game at launch, and then I went to Walmart and I bought it because at the time, I don't know if they still do this, the games were $10 cheaper on launch day.
Oh yeah.
So I went there. I'm like, all right, I got a deal. And then I didn't play it until 2022. So really, I did not get a good deal. I could have waited, but
what every gamer says these days.
Yeah.
Backlog.
So I finally decided to play it, and it was worth the wait for sure. I didn't do all 3, or what is there, 4 routes?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
I only ended up doing the 1 route, the Edelgard route, but I was very, very hooked on the game.
I would say it's the second best, Connor, because Golden Deer are the best. I'm sorry.
No, I've only played 1 route, and I know it's the best one.
Actually, Blue Boys are a contender.
They're pretty much all good. At least you didn't. I did the worst route first, which is good because I didn't want to ever go back and do it. Which is like when you don't side with her,
right? Because there's 2 routes.
Yeah, the church route, but. Yeah, we don't want to talk too much. I definitely want to do a topic about this sometime because it is one of my favorite games. Like I put almost 300 hours into it. I did every route, all the DLC. I even played it on Maddening, which I do not recommend unless you are.
You don't recommend, but I'm gonna do it because my friend and I have told each other, okay, for this last route, we're both on our 4th route. We're gonna do it on Maddening.
Which route is it?
The Black Eagles A route.
Okay. Yeah, see, I had the Blue Lions were the one I did it with. Definitely recruit Lysithea as soon as you can because she is the best unit in the game and best character. So,
yeah, I just played on normal. I played on baby mode, but I still loved it. I liked all the characters and like that sort of combat. I wouldn't say I'm great at it, but when I play one, I tend to really enjoy it.
It's just so satisfying. Like leveling up all your units one by one, making sure they have the class changes. Oh, I've been wanting to play a Fire Emblem, but I've been holding back because Engage is so close.
Yep. Yeah. The first Fire Emblem I played was Shadow Dragon, and I really did not like that game. So I thought I thought I hated Fire Emblem until I played Awakening, and then I was like, oh no, I actually really like this. So I pretty much can only play the more modern ones because I'm not good enough. I have to play with the mode where they can't die, and I need to grind like the optional battles to be able to get through it. But even playing on baby mode, it's still very fun.
It was those critical hit animations in the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem era.
Good.
Those were what addicted me to the series.
I was just too bad at Shadow Dragon, and I really messed up as a beginner. I remember I accidentally just had like 3 units that were good, and then I got to the end, and like I just the only reason I beat the game is because I had like the teleport spell, so I teleported through the level to get to the last boss, and then beat him with my one person that was good, and then that was it. If I had to actually play the level for real, I would have never beat it.
I don't know. I think that's the beauty of those games is those kinds of cheese strats to deal with your own bad choices along the way.
Very true.
All right, Connor, you're up.
Hey, another Phoenix Wright game now. My number 5 is The Great Ace Attorney Adventures. I don't know if I would have really gotten to these anytime soon if it wasn't for Straw Hat's suggestion, but I'm very glad I did play it because I love the setting change.
Ugh.
Like, it's usually hard for me to get invested in new cast of characters in an existing series,
Yep.
but I should have known from after playing a Apollo Justice, where they did the same thing, that I shouldn't worry about that with an Ace Attorney game because this one ended up being brilliant.
Herlock Sholmes.
Yeah, he ended up having a surprising amount of depth for what I thought was going to be a joke character
Yep.
at the start.
The second one especially, because it like continues, like the first game
Yeah.
goes right into. It's just so good, like what they do with the characters and the plot that advances. Like, yeah, because I was the same way. I'm like, there's no, and that was my game of the year last year. But I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way that they are going to replace the original trilogy characters and be as
they
good.
did.
But they're just as good, if not better, in some ways.
I think I like it more. One, I love that kind of art style. I forgot that it's one of those settings that I always think I don't care about too much, and then I watch like the Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. and go, "Oh wait, I love this." And yeah, the
And the new
1800s Britain.
the new stuff they added, like the jury, like they have the jury now in it, which you
Oh
can
yeah,
talk
that
to
was
them and have to
brilliant.
pit the jury against each other. It's so good. Parrot, you need to
Oh,
get on these Phoenix Wright games.
Yeah, I need to finish the original trilogy, or I guess I could just jump to these great attorney ones.
yeah, it really doesn't matter which order you play them as long as you're starting at the beginning of an arc.
Yep.
But yeah, the art style was way more like solid, more cohesive than before. So, and just gorgeous, even with the limited like fidelity, they do so much with it. The animations, that's the one thing. I know they were expressive before, but it just always blows me away how much detail they put in the animations in these games.
Mm.
The story had really solid emotional beats.
Oh
That
yeah.
was like the biggest surprise was how much more wholesome it was than the previous games, and just like kind of more heartfelt it was.
The other ones are definitely more comedic, I would say.
Which isn't to say this one didn't have its fair share of really
Right.
funny moments, but yeah, it a lot more soul, which is surprising. But that was my 5.
All right, on to round 4, Straw Hat.
All right. So my number 4 is, I don't know if any of you guys played this one, but it is Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
I have not. I played a little bit of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. That's about it.
Done with Kuro and Kuro 2. I plan to dig into that series for the first time, but not yet.
Ooh. Yeah, it's Xenoblade 3 is really good. The craziest thing is the combat. Like you control 6 characters at once now, which seems crazy, but it actually does work. And I think I heard Maddie actually talk about it because he's saying it's kind of a evolution of Star Wars. Is it the old Knights of the Old Republic? Like it's
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a bit
those
of that.
tactical
Yeah, because
RPGs.
it's kind of like that. Like it's real time, like almost turn based, but it's not turn based. But it does work. But yeah, the story is really good. The characters are good. I really like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is not a popular opinion. It still might be my favorite. I don't know though. But they're all the Xenoblade games are good, and 3 is no exception. So they pretty much keep improving the like just the different quality of life stuff, which really helps. And I still can't believe this game does run on Switch and look as good as it does, because it really does look good despite being on it, which, especially in a giant open world game, does not always work out for it.
Yeah. I am convinced that developers can do a lot more with the Switch than they have been. They just need to go back to some older styles of rendering, and they just refuse to.
Yeah.
Which there's good reasons why, but yeah.
Monolith Soft proves it every time, and usually Nintendo's own games look the best, and I'm sure it will continue, because I'm sure the Switch isn't going to keep going for too much longer, but you never know.
Yeah. All I know about the second game is it has the most moe, and the first game has that really funny British voice acting.
They all pretty much have the British voice acting, which is funny. They pretty much kept that, but yeah, the first one's probably the least anime.
All right, so my number 4 is Lost Judgment. I really love this game. I another game that I bought at launch, and then for whatever reason, I started it. I played the first 2 hours, and I wasn't in the right mood, so I set it aside, and then I didn't play it again until this summer, or the summer of 2022. And I feel like the game starts really slow, but then once the plot starts picking up and the game finally starts opening up with all the classic Yakuza side quests, it really starts to click, and I got really into this one.
It's got very Persona-like elements in this one because you're like in a high school, so you like can join all these clubs and do their mini game stuff, which is like my favorite part of the whole game.
Yeah, I thought that stuff was really fun. I didn't do like all of it, but I did a good amount of it. I really like doing the dancing club.
Oh yes, dancing was great. The robot one I actually got really into as well, like the robot battles.
Yeah, it was really a nice like additional feature to the game that I'm glad it didn't force you to do, but it was there if you wanted to do it. And then there was a lot of great side characters in this one. Like I like doing the mystery club stuff.
Oh yeah.
And of course, there's the best side quest where you get to have the dog that's also a detective.
Yep. Of course. Do you like because Addy and I do, because I like Lost Judgment a little more than the first Judgment, but he likes the first one. We like them both, but which one do you like more, do you think?
I think I would give the slight edge to this one, to Lost Judgment, because I think it plays a bit better, and I like how it has two maps. But I also I know that there are some people that don't like it, like Addy doesn't like the plot as much, but all the bullying stuff was something I feel like I really enjoyed.
It was kind of refreshing compared to most of the Yakuza games, so
yeah, and it obviously, like every one of them, it goes off the rails at a certain point, but I feel like for it has a good solid foundation. And then a bullying story is always gonna like tug at your heartstrings a little bit.
What is your Yakuza history, Connor? I don't know if I know how your
I've been sitting on this series for quite a while because I know it's right up my alley. Every time I see anything about it, I just see how ridiculous it is and go, that sounds like I could spend a lot of time chainsawing through that entire series when I do.
Well, that's
so
good because I want to replay them all again. So it's about time for me to start. I want to start at 0 again because I love the series to death.
Yeah. Eventually, I want to sit down with them. I've just been trying to find a good time to do it. Knowing that they're not as long as I thought they would be, it helps.
Oh, yeah. I think like 30 hours is a max. It depends how much you want to do, I guess. If you do everything, they can take longer, but yeah, most of them aren't that long.
No, they're probably in like the 20 to 25 range. If like a lot of the times I would do the main story, then I would do probably like 75% of the side missions, and then it's like probably 20-25 hours depending on the game.
That's probably what I'll end up being like.
And for you, that's like what, 3 days?
Yeah, that might be like it too. No, 3 days sounds about right these days.
All right, Connor, you're number 4.
Did you do your number? Did you do your number 4 yet, Parrot? Oh, you just did it. Yep. Sorry,
it's okay.
We're lost.
I'm deleting from my list as we go.
I should probably be doing that, but I'm just gonna rely on my memory. My number 4 is Vampire Survivors, which is crack cocaine purified into video game form.
I heard that was like the Steam Deck game of the year.
Pretty much. And this morning I saw that it was even featured on a promotional thing for the, DICE. I was like, what the heck? It's like, how does this work? What future have we entered? I see God of War Ragnarok, one of the biggest tentpole PlayStation releases, and then Vampire Survivors is on the same graphic, which literally used like knockoff Symphony of the Night art.
It's also like a super cheap game, isn't it? Like $8 or something like that.
Not even. It's like $2 or $3,
which is hilarious.
Yeah, that I had fun quite a few times this year, just going through trying to make the perfect build to survive the levels and unlocking all the little secrets, which is to me kind of what's so fun and special about it. Is it really captures that part I like about old retro games, which is here's all these secrets in the game, you play it, you unlock these little secrets, you're gonna have to figure it out. it's just that's all the appeal is unlocking. Well, not all the appeal, but like that's a big part of the game is finding things and then playing around with the things you unlocked, which is something that gets lost a bit. Where now there's not a whole lot of unlockables I feel in games that you can actually play with in the course of the game.
It's definitely a game that I want to try. I downloaded it, but I just have not tried it yet. But it seems like really crazy from all the screenshots I see people post.
Yeah, it's a turn off your brain and get some numbers to get big type of game. For sure.
I can go for that.
Yeah, some real refined brain rot.
All right,
that's my number 4.
All right, on to Straw Hats number 3.
All right, we are into the top 3. Now, if we were doing only games that came out this year, I guess this would be my number 1. But it's not, because we're doing new games we just played for the first time. But my number 3 game is AI the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative.
Nice.
Which this game shocked me because I really liked the first game. I think we all pretty much like the first game a lot. And I was like, there is no way this game's going to be as good as the first game, because Date is not the main character. And I love Date. He's like one of my favorites. And I'm just like, there's no way they can, like, the writing or the story could be as good. But I was wrong. It surprised me. I think they succeeded and made it even better. And I don't really want to talk about it without spoiling too much, because everybody should go play it because it's that good. But yeah, it was just, the characters are good again, just like the first game, and the plot's even crazier. This man is a genius who's writing these games, so I hope they keep the series going, because I really didn't expect to see a sequel either. I thought it'd just be one game and we're done, but there's a sequel.
That's kind of what it seemed like.
And it was great.
Yeah,
did you guys play this or no?
I did. I think Parrot, you were going to play it this month.
Yeah, I'm hoping to play it in the next few weeks probably. So I'll probably be talking about it on an episode very soon.
Nice.
Yeah. For me, the Somnium Files games aren't quite as like, I have a few problems with them, namely all the action scenes. But there's also a lot of things I really love. Like, I love the wild art style, super colorful, and it looks gorgeous. And this time around, I've done a lot of sci-fi stories, so it's not easy to really like catch me off guard with twists. But I thought the one they did here was super clever. And I really enjoyed it. I actually stopped and like had to think about what was happening for a while, which I almost never do because I really just rarely think.
So yeah, it sounds like we'll be talking about a little more later once Parrot plays it, which will be nice. So it'll be like a fresh take, because it's been a while. It came out in, I think, June of last year. So.
Yep, I need to find a nice recap of the first one. I don't know how important it really is to it, but it would be nice to have the first game a little more fresh in my mind before I start the second one.
A little bit of a recap would probably be a good idea.
Yeah, it'd be helpful.
You don't need a lot.
All right, my number 3 game is a game that, for whatever reason, I just was always a little scared to play, and that's Zelda's Majora's Mask.
Ooh.
For whatever reason, as a kid, I was always too afraid to play the game because I was so like stressed out by the idea of the 3-day timer. I don't know why, and that just followed me throughout my life, and I just never wanted to try it until this year I finally just decided to take the plunge. I played the 3DS version, which I know is a bit different but a little more enhanced, and I played with a fan mod that fixed some features, which made the playing it a little easier. But I definitely am glad I finally did it, because the 3-day timer thing was not an issue whatsoever, which I was always so scared that it would be. But the dungeons are super good, and the 3-day timer actually makes a lot of really interesting gameplay mechanics involving the time loop, and also playing as the different masks. The 3 transformation masks is really satisfying. I wasn't a super big fan of the Zora because it controlled really badly underwater, but it was still the idea was still really cool.
Like every underwater section of games,
Yep.
pretty much ever, except for a select few.
But I
Yes.
also haven't played a Zelda game in probably like 4 years, so it was also just really nice to get back to a game like that. I played it so much that I actually got all the masks so I could do the what is the last one called?
Oh, I shouldn't have known this, but I haven't actually played the game either.
I haven't either. See, Zelda is like a big weak spot for me. Like, I'm a big Nintendo fan, but I haven't played a lot of Zelda games. I think the only ones I've played like extensively are Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. I really haven't played many others. I Link to the Past, I think I played quite a bit back when I was younger too, but I really do want to play through all of them at some point. They're on my backlog, so
Twilight Princess is the only one I finished, and Wind Waker I got 90% of the way and then got filtered by that Triforce quest.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem in that game, and the Wii U version doesn't have it, or it fixes it in a way that it is not a pain in the ass at all. So
Yeah,
that's
so
the
I
version
might
of
play
that game that's the best.
I'd like to get the Wii U versions of both of those games, but other than that, Majora's Mask is the one that I've been the most interested in.
Oh, and it is the Fierce Deity mask. I couldn't remember the name, but it
That's
lets you
right.
transform at the end, and you're like super overpowered, and that makes the last boss kind of a
nice.
joke. But still, getting all the masks really like forces you to explore the whole game, which I really enjoyed. I also like the more dark tone compared to most other Zelda games. Some of the
Yeah,
like
that's the
actual
fun
like
part.
the transformation scenes are actually like pretty creepy. All right,
So,
Connor's number 3.
yeah, my number 3, another visual novel. Wow, how did this happen? Umineko, one of the gigalith visual novels out there. It's a whole 100 hours it took me to read through the whole thing, which of course I did in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's Umineko is transcendent. I think it took me did it take me 125 or something, or was it 150 almost?
Yeah.
It's a big boy.
Your Steam playtime was actually almost the same as mine.
Okay. Well, I guess it is really you pretty much just read it. There's not much else going on, so
Yeah. So it was Higurashi was pretty good, but as a visual novel, it was definitely an early work by was it
Mhm.
Ryukishi
Yep.
07. So that one I can definitely understand everyone saying, "I'll just watch the anime." But this one he definitely learned a lot. He still made this just gigantic story, but moment to moment in every episode is like better paced where interesting stuff is happening all throughout, and the interesting character development, which I really loved about Higurashi. But it used to be that he would write where it's like, okay, here's all this character development on its own, and then there'll be plot later. Now he interleaves the two where you're getting a good like back and forth where you're getting to know the characters, and then things are happening to the characters, and then you think about them differently as you get new details, and then the mysteries are really interesting to think about too.
it's one of the only games, like, still to this day, some people are like, I don't know if we really understand everything that he was trying to say, because there's just so much going on and so many different like metaphors and different just ways he's telling the story that like try to make you think it's like, is this really what happened, or is this what happened, or what does this mean exactly? But yeah, it's just like the master class of storytelling. That's like my favorite visual novel. It's just so good.
And I like the way he's ambiguous about some of the events, because at the same time, at least the way I interpreted a lot of it was, look, these events are ambiguous and maybe they should be, right? That maybe they aren't what matters. Maybe you should be thinking about these other things. These other things are more important than those. And maybe some mysteries are best left plugged. But then there's still a little interplay around that too. So it gave me a lot to think about over the course of it.
And the ending definitely got me a little teary-eyed, like with what happens. I was just like, oh, it just like hit like the journey at the end, because how much, which I don't even want to spoil any of it, a certain character goes through at the end that they were trying just so hard to figure out what happened to everyone.
Yeah, I loved it. And some great music too. I
Oh,
keep
yeah.
listening to a few of those tracks.
I have to get to it eventually, but Higurashi broke me a little bit. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
unfortunately, we had the whole plan for the visual novel month, and that just broke me, and I
You
just
know,
was not in the reading the visual novel mood for most of the year after that.
you definitely need to get the Umineko at some point, Parrot, just because it's so good. It's just, especially since you're such a big fan of visual novels.
Yep. Next time I can find a good
Just
120
yeah,
hours to
come
spend.
on. I'm sure you have 150 hours just laying around
Of
it'll
course.
somewhere.
probably be 80 to 90 for you.
Oh,
There's no
Probably.
yeah, you
yeah,
skip
there's
the
no
voice
voice acting this
acting.
time at all.
Well, there is if you do the mods, but
Yeah, you can mod it in, but
I'm modded in, and I still
don't
won't
mod
listen
it
to
this
it.
time.
oh, the
It's actually
voices are so good though. You need to go listen to some of them because some of the characters are just masterclass voice acting.
I'll hear the
I like
voices like the first half of the sentence, and then I'll skip it.
yeah. I actually did just skip the mod entirely when I was playing through. I was
Oh, so
like,
you played
oh,
with the old? Yeah, see, I played with the new mod, like the PS3 graphic, or no, I think I did the like the pachinko machine graphics. So
yeah, with the PS3 slash pachinko machine. Well, I
yeah,
think the base Steam version uses the pachinko graphics for the sprites, but it uses the old backgrounds and has no voice acting.
oh yeah,
And it
that's
uses
great.
the NVL style text where it just covers the whole screen.
Yeah,
So
I
it
don't
was my
like that.
favorite combination of elements. I was like, this is perfect.
All right, so now we're on to our second favorites.
All right, my number two is a Fire Emblem game. Big surprise, but it's Fire Emblem Path
Ooh.
of Radiance, the GameCube game that I've been wanting to play for years because my friend Delufus, that it's I think Radiant Dawn, the Wii one, is his favorite, but Path of Radiance is up there, and they both like continue. Like Path of Radiance, you have to play them in order, but
Few ones that are actually direct sequels.
yep. And it's more like a traditional Fire Emblem game. Like you can't grind Parrot. Sorry, so I don't know if you'd really like it as
Yeah,
much.
I'm too afraid to play this one.
It's pretty hard too. Even on, I think I just played on, or no, I think I did play on hard. Yeah, you. There's no grinding side or for side quests or anything. The only thing I don't like about the older Fire Emblem games is recruiting people is annoying because you
Oh
have to
yeah,
know going in what characters to bring, and you of course don't know unless you look ahead.
kind of
But the
missed that, but it might just be
yeah,
Stockholm syndrome.
but the story and character is excellent. The battles are excellent. I like how they work in like different, it's more like a racial thing here. It's more like animal people versus humans is what it turns into. And just like the narrative's really good with Ike's a great main character. I could see why he's one of the favorite Fire Emblem lords of the series, but
He was always
definitely
a fun
recommend.
Smash character.
Oh yeah, he was always one of my faves in there. I really want to play Radiant Dawn, but like I said, I've just been holding back because Engage is coming. But Path of Radiance might be, I think it's my third favorite Fire Emblem game now behind Three Houses Awakening and Awakening. I would put it next.
Nice. I should get to that one eventually, but it'll be a while.
All right, my number two is a game I never thought I would play, and that's Demon Souls Remake. I was
Souls.
Nice.
I would say that I've never played a Souls game other than I played maybe like 3 hours of Bloodborne once, and I played Jedi Fallen Order, which I know is kind of a game like that, but not quite. So I got this as a gift, and I went in pretty skeptical, and I was instantly just like blown away by, first of all, how beautiful it looked and how like smooth it played. And
Gosh, it's
then
so beautiful.
yeah, and it was not as like punishing in the ways that I thought it would be. So I was a little like I was surprised by that in a good way. I mean, I'm not going to say this game was easy because it definitely was not easy in any capacity, but like the fact that you could play through the level and then unlock like shortcuts so when you died you didn't have to do every single thing you did again to get back to your body to loot yourself was very nice,
Yep.
because I always just assumed that that was not really a thing. So that's what also what really turned me off from the
Yeah.
idea of playing one of these. And I definitely liked, I know like Elden Ring is very popular, but in Demon Souls I really did like just like the linear level design.
That was
And
actually kind of a strength of it because I played it for the first time this year as well.
oh, really? I thought you had played it many times.
Well, it's a PS5 exclusive, and I didn't
Oh,
have a
true.
PS5 till this year.
I never played Demon Souls original either.
Oh yeah, I missed that one.
I had a roommate that was really into it, but I had never even tried it. I just like watched him play, and I was like, no, I'm not even going to bother. But now I kind of
Yeah.
wish I did. Maybe I would have been a big Souls person for the last decade.
Yeah, I played Demon Souls this year shortly after a Dark Souls 3 replay, and I was actually really surprised how easy it felt in comparison. Like technically, it's not an easy game, but the complexity of things happening with like the boss designs, it's very. I was surprised how much simpler it was. It's just like the boss is going to do an attack, and now here's a big window for you to counter. Boss is going to do an attack. It might be a hard
Yeah.
attack to evade, but now here's a big window for you to.
Yeah.
A couple of gimmick bosses was pretty funny.
It didn't. Yeah, I was definitely not as scared of it once I actually really tried.
Yeah,
because it really did feel like a normal kind of action game that was just a little bit harder. And I would say the only boss I can remember at this point that really like drove me mad was the one where there's two things you're fighting at once.
and that one's just so janky.
Yeah, and then I ended up just like hiding behind a wall or something, or just running away. Just like I just drew the fight out for like 10 minutes so I could slowly win.
But the environment they were in was so gorgeous.
Yep, it was definitely a very, very beautiful game. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's going to springboard me into a big Souls person, but I'm more willing to try some other ones.
Yeah.
So now, Connor, you're number 2.
Which is also a FromSoft game, and I'll give you one try to guess what it is.
Oh, I don't know. Could it be Elden Ring?
Oh, it might be Elden Ring. I think my brother might strangle me for not putting this as number 1. But yeah, this was the first FromSoft game that I ever actually just like from release date sat down and kept playing until I finished it, which is a surprise since it's also one of the longest.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it was 90 hours for the first playthrough, and I didn't even get to everything. And I didn't know I didn't get to everything because that's how hidden some of the stuff are. There was a major boss, like one of the big story characters. One of those bosses was often a part of the map that I had just missed. Big portion of the map, just missed it. Still 90 hours. It's a massive game. The gameplay is the most refined the studio has put out yet. The addition of the horse and the open world elements were the things that I was the most iffy about because I got a lot of open world burnout. But the fact that they don't point anything to you, you just kind of go, oh, well, that looks interesting. I'm going to go see what's over there. And you feel no pressure to find everything and do all the checklists, even though you kind of end up playing the same way. But it fits better psychologically, where I just feel like I'm relaxing, having fun, enjoying the combat, and finding that. Well, the other thing is there's actually interesting stuff to find in every location. It'll be a weapon that completely changes your playstyle. You have an armor set that looks way cooler than the other stuff because I play Fashion Souls and looks is 90% of the game.
Very, very important.
Very important. Yeah. And then the thing that was really, really cool is just the community discussion around the game. Like you can play the co-op, so sometimes you're having fun with your friends playing with bosses, although I try to avoid doing that for the first time on them because otherwise it gets a little too easy. But everyone's talking about like, oh, I found this thing, or oh, I went over here and there was that, and like, what? I missed that. And just all the discussion it was like what people talk about when the original Legend of Zelda came out, and how that game was just a big mystery box that everyone had to talk about to figure out how to solve. And that's kind of the same experience I got with Elden Ring and why I loved it so much, because so many of my friends were also going through it.
It is one of the Souls. I mean, I'm not definitely not a Souls fan really at all, but I played Jedi Fallen Order like Parrot, which is like Souls adjacent. I was kind of tempted to try it at some point, and I should try it at some point. I really only played. I tried the first Dark Souls, didn't really like it. I played
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 hours of Bloodborne, just like Parrot, and I'm just like, I don't know. I was tempted to play Sekiro, but never did. So maybe Elden Ring. I'm just like I should try it, but then every time I get in, I'm just like I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like Demon Souls, Dark Souls 3, and Elden Ring are probably the most, not the most forgiving, but they're like, they have the best combination of elements to get people in and invested in the game.
Yeah, I think I am gonna eventually give it a try because the thing in Demon Souls was that even when I got stuck, I could just go to easy areas and grind a little bit and get some, XP to level up and make it a little easier on myself. Is that
Yeah.
how
And
this
Elden
game
Ring
also
does
works?
that. The
Yeah,
Elden Ring does that even better, way more naturally. It's like there was a boss I was stuck at right at the start of the game that just like takes you right to a major boss that you're absolutely not prepared for. And then it doesn't say you should go explore, but after a while it's just like, okay, there's a lot of map I just skipped over. Let's go check out what's there. 20 hours later I come back and it's like, oh, I'm actually prepped for this now.
yeah. I've seen some people play it, and I think
Yeah.
I will eventually just give it a try because I'm not sure I want to play all the Souls games, but it seems like the one I would like the most.
Yeah. Definitely worth giving a shot.
All right. Before we get to our number ones, we'll do a couple quick honorable mentions, and I'll be reading some write-ins, or I'll be reading some choices from our community because I posed the question on multiple discords. First, we'll do Straw Hat.
I have like quite a few I'd want to do, but I'm just going to do a couple here. Now, of course, everybody might be wondering, oh, you're a big Legend of Heroes fan. Why isn't Trails from Zero on your list? Well, it's because I had played it already, because I'm a super nerd who downloads fan patches and plays the Japanese versions of games at times.
Bless you for
So,
that. Bless you
yeah,
for inducting me in that.
yeah, I remember when we kind of got that going on the server, which with a bunch of Trails games, and yes, so I played Zero the year before, but I played it again, and it would have been very high on my list. So definitely shout out to that one. I also want to shout out It Takes Two, which I finished
Ooh.
this year with Moki. We played it together. We started it in December of last year, but we didn't finish it till this year. But very fun game. Lots of shout outs to it reminded me so much of Mario Party and like for the mini games and stuff, but it was just fun to play and they changed up every area, which was great. Like you really didn't feel like you were doing the same thing at all. And then the other game I want to shout out is Genosia, which
Ooh,
is
yeah.
another visual novel I played this year, which it reminds me of Raging Loop that you're playing Mafia, but that's literally all the game is just playing Mafia over and
Yeah,
over and over again.
it's actually the dynamic version of that setup.
Yeah, and it's really good too. You pretty much do the same thing over and over again, but you can like set the parameters differently, and I really liked it. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
All right. Mine, I first have to give a shout out to the number one brain rot game of the year for me, Marvel Snap.
Oh boy.
Everyone's sick of me talking about it, but I was obsessed. I still am obsessed with this game. It's just a little multiplayer card game. What's a huge draw is that the rounds are only a couple minutes long, and so you can kind of fly through rounds really fast. And yeah, I still play this game every single day, so I have to at least
Oh,
give it a shout out. And then,
we'll fix the gotcha in your head at some point.
well, that's what's wonderful about it is it really isn't because there's only so many cards you can get, and there's no random packs or anything. So it really, for a card game, it definitely feels like it has good progression. Bowser's Fury was another game I played this year that I really
Ooh.
liked. It's a short, few hour little experiment in open world Mario. And while I'm not sure I want to see like a full game like this, I think it was really good as an experiment, and I would be interested in seeing like how they could evolve that idea. And then just a quick shout out also to the what is it? How do you say it? Kind of Muv-Luv? Is that what you would say it?
Love.
Yeah. Okay. And a quick shout out to the Muv-Luv trilogy. 2 games, but 3 games total.
Something
I
confusing. Packaging is weird, but hey, games are great.
these are, Higurashi kind of broke me for a while. I didn't play visual novels again for a few months, and then these three took me way longer than they probably should have. It took me probably over the course of 4 months playing them, but while I thought they were a little overly verbose, I did think that
Just a
at their
little.
core they were really, really good.
Nice.
So here's some of the so when I posed the question to our community in our multiple different discords, here are the answers that people came up with. Brandon said Trails to Azure.
Great game.
Nils said Bioshock. Never,
Nice.
never, of course, said Kuro no Kaseki 1 and 2.
I will join him for this year, hopefully.
Superfan Gremlin said Dragon Quest V. Sean said Tunic.
I gotta get to that one eventually.
Me
Eddie
too.
said Persona 3 Fez.
I didn't know he liked that number 1.
I don't know. I was a little surprised. That game would have probably made my list too, but I finished it right at the end of last year or 2021. We have Edwin, Alex, and Rainick all saying Elden Ring, and Rainick also had a special shout out to Sonic Frontiers, which is my early game of 2023.
Ooh,
Poot said Hollow Knight.
excellent.
Moki said Omori. My good friends Alexis and Radic both said God of War Ragnarok. Corbin said A Plague Tale Innocence. Chad, Trails of Cold Steel 3.
Ooh.
Nice.
Arcity said Final Fantasy Endwalker. Ryochi said Marvel's Midnight Suns.
I know, I need to play that. He's really been hyping that, and I need to play that at some point since it's XCOM's developers.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about that. Is it Cosine? That's how you would say it. His name?
Think so?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I
Spelled like the math.
That's what I thought too, but I wasn't reading it. Cosine said Trails of Zero.
Nice.
Continue.
He usually has the asterisk in front of it, so maybe it's multiplied by the cosine.
Maybe. Infinite said Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is a game that almost made my cut too.
Almost mine did too. Yeah,
it was a very nice twist on Pokemon. I kind of hope they just go back to more of those.
Yep.
And he also shouted out Prey and 13 Sentinels. Moo had seemed to have trouble picking. He said ultimately his pick would be Cyberpunk, but his other mentions were Danganronpa 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, and Tales of Arise. Herb, Ocarina of Time. AJ, Outer Wilds. Jonoichi, that's how you would say it, right?
I think Jonochi.
Jonochi, yeah.
That's how I say it anyways.
Okay. Jonochi said Gran Turismo 7. And GMAC said God of War Ragnarok also, but it seemed like his heart really wanted to say MLB The Show. And now we'll pass it to Connor for your honorable mentions, and then we'll go to our number ones.
First, I gotta say, Jonochi, extra based with the Gran Turismo 7 pick. Very cool. I only have one honorable mention, and I played a lot of good games, but I'm actually going to shout out what was my bottom game of the year, worst game I played this year, which was Hatoful Boyfriend.
We all played that.
It was a funny game. It was a good chuckle for 2 hours, but wow, I was pretty underwhelmed.
Yeah, that's fair. It's probably
That's it.
It's 2 hours, but it's probably an hour and 45 minutes too long.
Yep. That's it. That's all I have to say about it.
All right. Straw Hat, what is your number one?
Before I say mine, I'm curious, because do you guys have the same number one? I'm guessing you do.
No.
Oh, you don't?
I don't think so.
There's no way you guys have the same number one.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll say mine then. So my number one is the same as never. It is Kuro no Kaseki. Just the first one. Legend of Heroes, Kuro no Kaseki. And it didn't actually come out in the US yet. It came out in Japan last year, but the spreadsheet was up to snuff this year, and it was a great experience playing it. And I think I was a little skeptical going into it because they changed the formula of Trails a little bit, because now you have real-time action if you want on the field, and then it still has the turn-based gameplay, but I think it was a much needed change because Hajimari no Kiseki, which the Trails from Reverie is coming out this year in the States, and that is pretty much the ultimate JRPG combat, in my opinion. And that's, of course, the last game before they switch to this one. But we're going to obviously talk about Kuro no Kiseki at some point, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. It was my easy game of the year, and of course, it's a Trails game, and it's excellent. So play it when it comes out.
A lot of time on it because I'm playing it early, the hard way, which is where I actually have to translate it myself.
That's definitely hard work. Because I was going to say the rest of you enjoy playing it when it comes out in like 2024.
Maybe I'll be caught up by then.
Or 2025.
I've started chapter 2 out of like 5.5, and I'm at 120 hours.
Oof. Yeah, it's gonna be like a 500-hour game for you or more.
Hey,
maybe
but
like
I'll know
1,000.
Japanese when I'm done, hopefully.
There you go. But yes, that is my number one.
All right, my game of the year was a game I didn't play until a few months ago, and that is Rogue Legacy 2. I actually bought this when it first came out on Xbox, but it was on Xbox, so I didn't really stick with it, and I only played like an hour of it because I just, Xbox. But
Xbox.
then it got ported to Switch, and I just feel like that is more where I want to play a game like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like would pick it up throughout the day. I have 10 minutes to spare, I'll play a run. I have 3 hours to spare, I'll play for 3 hours straight. It was definitely a game that got its hooks in me. Like, if a game actually gets its hooks in me like that, I know I must really love it, because very often I am a person that will play a game for a couple hours and I'm very okay taking a break. But this is a game that I just like kept thinking about even when I wasn't playing it. I think
purest form of brain rot.
Yeah, exactly. It was the type of roguelike that I get really obsessed with, where when you die, you're constantly leveling up your stats or getting perks. So you aren't frustrated when you die, which I think is key in a game like that. It never felt like I was bashing my head in the wall. I just always felt like, okay, I learned a lot this time, and now I'm going to get better for the next time.
Nice.
And then also just like the random element of your character having some sort of power or debuff based off of the one you choose in your lineage is also really fun. Like, you could fart a lot or something, or you're blind, or you're purple. It is there's things that don't affect you, there's things that do affect you, and I just always think it's really funny and kind of charming to see all the random names for what they give you and how they translate into game.
I played a little bit of the first game way back in the day, and I remember enjoying it, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, the second one plays pretty much the same, just more new and improved, and they add new abilities to make the game a little more complicated. All right, so now we'll move on to our final game, Connor's number one.
Right. And this one was kind of a little back and forth for me, because between two different games that are very connected, but I decided to go with the spin-off title, Tomoyo After It's a Wonderful Life, which is another visual novel.
That's from Clannad, right?
Yeah, so the main game is Clannad, and that was just... I have not had a game or a story be that emotional.
That's why I watched the anime originally, and that's one I can't go back and watch. I do have the visual novel on my list to play, but yeah, it's rough.
It's just it's hard to describe exactly why it worked so well for me, because it's kind of a generic setup from the get-go that made me, and then the art at first appearance, you're like, wow, it looks very, very, very sappy when you look at it the first time.
It's key art, yeah.
It's like, how could I ever enjoy this? And then you play it, and it's like, oh, the dialogue's actually really amusing. The main characters, like, I can really, I really get this guy. He kind of gets to a feeling I had in like high school and even into college, that it's just, I feel like is kind of glossed over in a lot of dramas, where it's like kind of in society, but also sort of an outcast of society, and a lot of interaction around that. And then it is kind of a dating semi where you have to go through all the routes with the different girls before you can get to the main one. But each one of those stories kind of felt like its own. The way it's arranged kind of feels like they're their own little short stories. And I'm talking a lot about Clannad now when my pick is Tomoyo After. But you kind of have to play Clannad before you can enjoy Tomoyo, because the spinoff is based off one of the routes that was just a side route in the original, but it was my favorite character in Clannad. As much as I really like the after story and like the main thread of Clannad with Nagisa, Tomoyo was actually my favorite part. And when I found out that the other bit of the bundle I bought was a dedicated story to like basically, okay, here's after story, but with Tomoyo instead.
It's very fun that we had 3 totally completely different lists, not a single game that was shared between them. If you enjoyed listening to our first top 10 episode and contributing to the honorable mention section, join us in the Discord and let us know if there's other games that we didn't mention that you played this year that you really loved. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Sayonara.
Bye-bye.